And we're going to pick up where we left off last time at chapter 13, and we're going to be at verses 9 and 10. Revelation 13, starting down in verse 9. And I'll read those two verses. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword must he be slain. Here is a call for endurance and faith of the saints. So, remember what John just told us about what was going to be going on. We talked about one character in particular last week. Who was that? The beast. The first beast, the beast from the sea. We give him a title, the Antichrist, right? And so that's what we talked about. And then all of a sudden we're told here, if anyone has an ear, let him hear. What does that mean? Pay attention. Yeah, don't miss this, right? You need to hear this and apply it in your life. And then we get this kind of cryptic message here almost. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword he must be slain. So, this is just one of those prophetic, or not prophetic, proverbial ways of saying, if you cause death, you better watch out because it's coming to you. There's definitely going to be consequences. For those who oppose God and those who oppose God's people, as I said last week, the very act of those people undermining and trying to destroy God and his people are going to be their undoing. So, just a little proverbial statement there that we have. Remember, those whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life will never, ever have to face God's wrath. And that's a blessing that, goes beyond anything we can really express, because no one should want to ever have to face that. And while we won't face God's wrath as believers in Jesus Christ, we may be susceptible to the wrath of the dragon, the wrath of the beast here, resulting in persecution and even possibly martyrdom. So that's what we do have to keep in mind. As the secular powers press down on the church, and by the way, if you're paying attention, it's been going on for a while, and we're called to trust God and to go on trusting God no matter what. No matter what the circumstances, keep trusting God, even through the fire. Now, a couple of things I want to point out, just by way of application. Satanic authority. The worldly system, but we know there's a power behind the worldly system, and that's Satan. Satan will use power selfishly in order to deceive people away from following God, away from listening to God. And Satan constantly imitates or parodies the one true God. And he always distorts, he always perverts what is good. So he takes what is straight and what is good and he twists it in some ways. So the great question in life is, which power are we going to worship? God or the devil? And they are not equal. They are not opposites. You have to understand that. God is so much more than Satan is. So the beast's remarkable displays of power, and they are going to be remarkable, right? Signs and wonders, miracles happening. These are going to deceive people and lead them asking, remember that question we considered, who is like the beast? And we talked about how that really just was a slap in the face of God, because there's no one like God. And here all of a sudden people are worshiping the beast and basically using words that express praise to God in praise of the Antichrist. Now, sadly, there are some Christians today who are incredibly gullible, incredibly ignorant when it comes to the whole issue of what power really is and what's the power behind the powers. If there's a demonstration of power, if it's significant enough, it will mislead a lot of people, and they will believe in it. So we have to, as Christians, we have to become more knowledgeable about the way things really are. Not to put our heads in a hole and just pretend like nothing's going on and just hope it all goes away. we have to be more knowledgeable about how God uses power and how we need to be more discerning about motives behind what people are doing. And just examine everything, test everything when people grasp for power. Now, there's a verse I asked one of you to read, Matthew 24:24.
Okay. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect.
Okay, so this is a warning from Jesus Christ, and he said, what? Many false Christs. So what does that tell you? Think about all the things that Jesus Christ did on the earth. The powers that he, displayed, the teachings that he had. He says there are going to be false Christs. In other words, there's going to be those who try to pretend like they are Christ, but how will we know the difference? So,
we have to know the Word.
We have to know the Word, absolutely.
We know the true Christ.
We know the truth, right. And Jesus claimed to be the truth. He is the truth. But you'll know them by their works, by the deeds. What are they really pointing to? And before long, they will reveal what they're really up to, okay? If you're paying attention. Now, Christians are called to actually conquer the beast. I hope you remember that. But here's the catch. We conquer the beast by being conquered ourselves. It's not us going up against the beast, right? It's Jesus.
Right.
Jesus is the one who conquers. And we're called to sacrifice, and we're called to suffer. No one likes to hear that. No one wants to hear that. But that is the truth of following Christ. That is the truth of what it means to be a Christian. Jesus said we would suffer in one way or another. And that is our primary response to evil. We resist it, certainly. We call it for what it is, certainly. But at the end of the day, we're really powerless in and of ourselves. So we just have to keep submitting to Jesus Christ and trusting what he is doing, even behind the scenes, what we don't see. And that's how he says we're to conquer Satan and his forces. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb. We overcome by the testimony about Jesus Christ. And so in responding to evil, we should not become just like the perpetrators of the evil. That's a slippery slope. And lots of people in intending to do good actually did more harm because they used the same tactics that evildoers use. How about Romans 12:14? Who has that one?
I got it.
Okay.
Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer.
Okay, so he gives us some instructions there. In the hard times, in this life that we find ourselves in as Christians, what are we supposed to do? Be patient. Be strong. Hope. Endure. All the things we keep seeing throughout Revelation as well. We see that word endure and overcome so many times. How about 1 Peter 3:9?
I've got it. Not returning evil for evil, or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, blessing, knowing that you were called to this, that you may inherit blessing.
Don't return evil for evil. It's a strong temptation, right? It's a natural reaction for human beings. But he says we can't do that as followers of Jesus. We should imitate Christ, who, when he was reviled, stayed silent, right? He didn't hit back. He didn't turn around and crucify all the people that crucified him. He suffered, and he experienced death on the cross. We stand for truth. We should stand for truth, but that's what we're called to do, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the temptations are to either be quiet or to change our mind about something or whatever, compromise, right? So we have to faithfully endure along the path that Jesus Christ himself pioneered for us. He went there, he walked that road long before we did, and it was a lot worse than any path we probably have. Hebrews 12:1-3.
Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and not lose heart.
Okay, so great encouragement for us. Don't grow weary. Don't get tired of doing what's right. You know, there's another verse that actually says that. Don't give up doing good, because at the right time, you'll actually reap a harvest. So that's something to keep in mind. What is our only weapon? What is that?
Jesus Christ.
Well, he fights for us. The word, the sword of the Spirit, right? Which is the word of God. That's our weapon. And does that mean that we go out and beat people over the head with scripture and just be belligerent to everybody? That, you know, there are people like that. You see them on the news from time to time. But that's not what we're called to do either. We are called to speak the truth. We're supposed to tell the truth in love. You know, we can't leave that part out. And so that's just something to remember. Any Wizard of Oz fans in here? Yeah.
I like the little dog.
You like the dog, Toto? Well, all of us, I think, are familiar with the story. You know, Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, they all go, and Scarecrow, they go on this yellow brick road path, and the whole goal was to get to Oz, right? If they could just get to Oz, all their problems would go away. And what happened when they got to Oz? What did Oz, the great and terrible Oz, say to them? He was a fraud, right? He tried to turn them away. He tried to basically, you know, reject what they were seeking. And Toto, the little dog, revealed what he really was. And the whole shenanigan came crashing down, right? So don't fall for an Oz. That's our lesson for life. Don't fall for an Oz. As good as something may look, as powerful as somebody may be, watch their true motives. Watch what's really, really going on behind the scenes, if you can find that out in any way. So don't settle for an Oz. Are any questions up to this point through verse 10?